the Craftsman Brushless V20 4.5-inch angle grinder. We'll put it to the test when we get back. I'm Tim Johnson. You're watching Shop Tool Reviews. This is the CMCG450 from Craftsman, and it's their 4.5-inch angle grinder. Now, don't mistake this with their other 4.5-inch cordless angle grinder, also on the 20-volt platform, but it is not a brushless motor, and it has that funky looking D-ring handle here as well. Quite a bit different grinder, and we like this one much better. So this is their brushless model, much more powerful. Again, it runs on the V20 platform. All in with the battery, you're looking at about 5 pounds, 12 ounces, I think. So right at 6 pounds with a 4 amp hour battery. Now, why I say a 4 amp hour battery, we definitely don't recommend this grinder, really any grinders on a slim battery pack, but on a 2 amp hour battery, you're just not going to get the runtime you would appreciate in a grinder. So definitely recommend you pairing this with a 4 amp hour, at least a 4 amp hour battery. So that's why we said it weighs about 6 pounds with the 4 amp hour, because that's the way you're going to be using it. Bare tool, I think it's like 4.5 pounds, but that battery is going to add a couple of pounds there, so you're right at 6 pounds. 4.5 inches, as we mentioned, so the blade guard fits a 4.5-inch wheel, not a 5-inch wheel. Got an adjustable blade guard with no tools required. 8,000 RPM no load speed, so you know, you're going to tell the difference between 8 and 10,000 on some other tools. Maybe, maybe not. Again, as a DIY tool, as a tool that you're going to be pulling out in your garage to work on sheet metal and, you know, cut small goods, I doubt you're going to notice it. And in fact, in our testing, we really liked the power and performance we got out of this. Paddle switch on this, love that. Love a paddle switch. That's just kind of a preference thing for me, but I really like a paddle switch. Has it on this tool. Nice rubber overmolding where you can grab this very easily with bare hand or glove. Obviously an arbor lock or a wheel lock here where you can change the wheel. Have a spanner wrench here in the handle, so you can easily change that spanner nut, but it doesn't require a tool either, so easily, and we'll show you that in the video how to change that out without a tool. As far as the auxiliary handle, it can go left, right, or up on the top as well. When you do a lot of cutting, a lot of times that's really nice to have that top location, or when you're getting in funky areas. Really like this tool. We're going to actually use it, show you what we think of it, and then we'll come back and wrap this up. This is the Craftsman Brushless 20-volt grinder. Now, don't mistake this with the first rendition that had the D handle, and I don't believe it's a brushless model either. This is quite a bit better tool than that $49 grinder was. So if you're looking at between this one and that one, there's really not a lot of comparison performance-wise. This is going to be a much better tool. We've already used this around the shop quite a bit. We just kind of wanted to show this in use and give you our thoughts on it. We're pairing it with the 4 amp hour battery. You can also get a 2 amp hour battery, which is right here. We definitely recommend this. Is a tool that's going to draw a lot of power and do it constantly. So it's going to need that larger battery. We definitely recommend a larger battery on a tool like this, on a grinder. Get a typical, arbor lock here at the top so you can lock the wheel out and make those blade changes as you need to. You have a spanner wrench here in the handle. So if you need to make those blade changes, you can use the spanner wrench. If you use a spanner wrench, I can show you in a few minutes how you really don't need one per se. It is a 4.5 inch, so it's not going to accept a 5-inch wheel. It's a max of a 4.5 inch, and you can see here in the blade guard, it really wouldn't fit a 5-inch wheel. And you can move this blade guard without a tool, so that's really nice. You don't have to have a screwdriver or an Allen wrench or anything else. You just flip this open right here, and then you can turn this wherever you need to, lock it back down, and that's going to orient to wherever you're grinding, cutting, what have you. Also on the auxiliary handle, on this handle here, it can be put here on the left side for most right-handers. Can also be put here on the right-hand side for like a left-hander, and you can also put it on the top. So if you're doing cutting or something like that, that makes it really nice to have that top location as well. Now, one of my favorite features on this tool is the fact that it has a paddle switch. I really like paddle switches on grinders. That's just a preference thing. Some may like triggers, but this does have the paddle switch, as well as you have a safety lever here where you have to push that down before you can engage that paddle. A fuel gauge there right on the battery with 3 LED lights. I really like a 4 LED light, just gives me kind of a better idea of what the state of the charge of the battery is. But again, at least you have an indicator there. It's going to lock that battery in good and tight. Nice rubber overmolding as well, so you can grip onto that tool whether you're barehanded or with gloves on like I have, both on the bottom and the top. And you even have a little rubber foot here when you're laying it down that it's going to touch that rubber foot. And even though it really doesn't make a lot of sense because it's a grinder, and on this end you don't have any rubber feet, but the overmolding and the rubber is still there if it concerns you. As far as the venting on this tool for dissipating heat, it's going to draw it in through these vents and it's going to disperse it basically out these vents. There's no covering on here, so as far as a production grinder, this probably wouldn't have a long life. As a DIY tool, it's probably going to be a great tool, but again, without any mesh here covering these vents, you're going to get a lot of intrusion of grinding dust inside there and potentially in the motor, causing potential damage. But let's use this a little bit and then give you our idea on performance as well. So probably the most thing this is going to be used for is probably surface preparation, maybe removing rust, things like that, maybe prepping for a weld, and probably doing, you know, cutting 1/8 inch material like this angle iron, or, you know, cutting all thread, cutting maybe some sheet metal, maybe grinding sheet metal. I doubt you're going to get into heavy, you know, 1/4 inch steel, 3/8 inch plate steel where you're grinding a bevel on there for welding, things like that. Typically a shop like that's probably going to have a lot heavier duty welder, but we'll still try that and see how well it does. But I'm going to grind a little here. I'm going to use the included disc here that Craftsman includes on this, and then I'm going to change it out and use a flap wheel and another ceramic disc. We'll even do some cutting as well, but I'll go ahead and use what they have included, and then we'll go from there. So definitely grinds very well, you know, removing rust. That's a few years of rust on that angle iron there. It does very well, you know, like a typical grinder would be. I was putting a little bit of pressure on there, especially there at the end, and I wasn't able to stop it. You did hear the RPMs drop, but still, with the brushless power and the 20-volt battery, it did quite well. Again, I wasn't putting all my force on there. I could definitely stop this wheel if I wanted to, but I was putting a good bit of force on there while I was grinding. So did a decent job at that. Now let me change out this, and then we'll go to a cutting wheel and make some cuts. Now, take your battery out when you want to do a wheel change, and again, you can take the spanner wrench out and, you know, use the arbor lock right here, or the wheel lock. Find where it engages right there, and then you could use the spanner wrench to turn that. Now, you can also do something. So again, make sure your battery's out, and if you got a set of gloves on, this works as well. Lock out your arbor, and you can grab that wheel and turn it, and it's going to take that spanner off. And by the way, when you're grinding and cutting and things like that, it's going to use that force is going to tighten that nut, so it's not going to come loose. I mean, you want to make sure it's loose, or you want to make sure it's tight when you put it on. But again, you can take those off by hand. So on here, make sure that when you're using your flange nut here, that you have the recession on the right side. So with that grinding wheel, I could use that inside lip on the inside. On this thin cutting wheel, I need to make sure I put the flat part of the flange nut on the inside, so it locks that cutting wheel into place. Make sure that's good and tight. So now what we're going to do, we're just going to make a little cut on this same angle iron here. And we need a battery. Go ahead and change this. There we go. No problem there. Even cutting at an angle on the inside angle there, was still able to cut through there. No problem at all. Putting a little bit of force on it, but again, not trying to push this as hard as I could by any means, because I do think this is more of a DIY or kind of a home repair tool, or maybe, you know, just kind of a sporadic use in a shop type of tool. Same thing here. Let me cut some all thread. This is pretty thick all thread there. It's 3/4 inch, I believe. So no problem cutting through that all thread either. Now let's do something else here. Let's go ahead and see how hard we can push this. Now what I've got here is a piece of, I believe it's 3/8 inch plate. It might be 5/16. Anyway, it's thicker than 1/4. So something definitely thicker than what you're typically going to grab this grinder to work with. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to change this out, and we're going to put a good disc on here. Give this a fair shot. This is a 3M Cubitron flap disc. Great flap disc, by the way. If you haven't tried flap disc, I would definitely recommend it. It's worth the step up in cost. Okay, got that locked in. Snap the battery in. And so now what we're going to do, we're going to try to put a 45 here on the edge of this metal. Not bad, not bad at all. Again, probably something we wouldn't recommend that this tool's going to do on a day in and day out job. But, you know, again, if you got this in your home shop or in a small fab shop where you're just using it for the as a supplemental tool, if you will, that's a great tool for even beveling that thicker steel if you need to. Again, probably not recommended, but with a good wheel on it, it's definitely got the power to do it. You're not going to lean into it like a 15 amp grinder by any means. But hey, pretty impressive with what it'll do. Now let me do one more thing, and we'll grab some really rusty metal. So here's some really rusted metal here, and we're going to change out this wheel here. Still keeping the same battery. We're going to put a ceramic wheel on there. More for surface preparation. We're going to see how quick we can prep this nasty rust here. So not a bad job at all. Again, you know, for the price, 129 bucks for the bare tool. It's definitely a huge step up from their other grinder, from their D-handle grinder. So the V20 brushless tool, I believe it's a CMCG450. Nice tool, definitely recommend. Again, the 4 amp hour battery, or at least a 4 amp hour battery. And let's see here. So all that work we were doing, we've still got 2 bars left. So this was fresh when I started, but basically everything I've done here has been on that pack without charging it or anything else. So it's done a little bit of work, and you still got 2/3 of the battery life left, or somewhat near that. The CMCG450 performed very well for the size tool it is, for the type of tool it is. $129 is what you're going to pay for this as a bare tool. Now that's quite a step up from their $49 other grinder, but I think as much of a price difference, it's as much that in performance as well. This is just a lot better performing tool. The other tool we used a little, I don't know if we ever reviewed it, but it just doesn't put out the performance that's really needed in a shop or really even in a garage. So this is a great supplemental tool if you're a, if you're a pro, or you're in a metal shop, or you're in some type of small fabrication shop. This is a great supplemental tool, to have a cordless tool for handy little cuts and grinding, things like that. Is it going to replace your 15 amp, corded or 13 amp corded model? Absolutely not. But it is going to be a great tool as a supplement. Also, as a DIYer, if you're on the Craftsman platform, it's a no-brainer to pick up this tool. And again, highly recommended, and versus the Craftsman's other grinder. So definitely recommend stepping up to this one. The brushless motor definitely powers a lot better than their other model as well. Again, going to recommend the 4 amp hour battery. The 4 amp hour battery and a charger is going to run you about 100 bucks, about 99 bucks. And then again, the 129 price on the bare tool. 3-year warranty on this. You can pick this up at Lowe's. Make sure you check it out. Also keep track of us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. If you don't mind, hit that like and subscribe button if you like this video. Also, that bell notification, that's going to let you know when future videos are available. Have a great day. Keep smiling.